go in 3, 2, 1. Hello, and you join us yet again for our review of the latest episode of Doctor Who. This is the third episode of the current series that we're reviewing now, the episode entitled Rosa. And this week we're starting off with Sean's thoughts on Rosa.
Yes.
Oh no.
That's be delicate how I say it.
Yes, this is what I've been...
This is going to be very delicate.
I was intrigued is probably the safest way to describe your thoughts on this.
It's a sensitive subject, although it's the American Civil Rights Movement. But it's a lot of people, it's a sensitive subject, but some of those southern accents were terrible. I'm joking. They weren't that bad. Yeah, it was alright. Kind of didn't feel like a Doctor Who episode.
It had an interesting feel to it.
It was more like an episode of those things you used to watch in school that are educational. That's what it reminded me of. Just with a bit of a bigger budget.
I remember us having a conversation that when you were saying about, well, Chris Chibnall did say this was going to be the most educational one.
One might even argue to have preachy at times, but it was trying educational. It just didn't really feel like a Doctor Who. When what's his face, whatever that guy was, Danny from Greece. The Grease jump.
It's the 1950s.
You just go, oh yeah, it's Doctor Who. Whoops, I forgot about that. Yeah, it was alright. What can I say without really starting a fight at the end? About it. It wasn't bad. It had dull points. But, it just didn't really feel like a Doctor Who episode to me. It felt like an educational program. I don't know how Doctor Who started, but, I wasn't necessarily entertained.
To be fair, though, at the same...
Starting was the point.
When Doctor Who started, it started in 1963, so that episode actually wasn't too far into the past. But when it looked at history, it was ancient history more than anything, because we know it looked at the Aztecs and the Romans. It didn't tend to go that far back for a while.
Well, yeah, my mum was still talking about, because she's old, shall we say? We'll just leave it at that. How they never did the American Civil Rights at school, to which I went, well, yeah, it hadn't actually happened, most of it, when you were at school. And even she was surprised how cartoonishly racist the South was.
It's not inaccurate. Which is what I was... since we're moving into Mum's thoughts, Mum was saying on her bit, it says how accurate it was, because this was just about over 60 years ago. And what you were just saying about how cartoonishly racist it is in the that's not inaccurate, though, of how bad it was, particularly in the Deep South. So Alabama, Mississippi, all those places. And you realise how... Because we never had that. It wasn't... here in Britain, we never had that sort of institutionalised...
Well, no, it's why it makes certain things that come from America really stupid in England. Not saying anything, but there have been things... But yeah, there was no institutionalised... England's more classism than racism.
I mean, you say that. I mean, until...
those darn working class
Until
people.
1968, it was still legal for someone to be refused lodgings or employment based on their race. It wasn't until the Race Relations Act 1968, put forward by the government at the time here in Britain, that said it is a criminal offence to discriminate based on race. Up until that point, there were signs in the window that said, no coloureds, no Irish, no dogs. That's one of the classic signs of things. So the idea of institutionalised, we didn't have the idea of segregation here in Britain. That wasn't the case, but discrimination and racism was still present here, it's just not to the same extent that it was in America.
Well, this has got very
serious. To be fair, it's got to be a serious one, because just looking at the content of the episode... What
joke can I say that isn't completely offensive?
My mum thought it was the most powerful episode of Doctor Who she's ever seen. It's dealing with a major social issue. To be fair, as you said, it's not gonna, because of that, it doesn't feel like a Doctor Who episode, because I think we were talking about it because based on what we saw in the trailer, because it's the first time the episode's revolved more around... It's not there's a big threat to the world or to this community or something that we have to protect it from. It's guarding history, which, as a plot idea, just as that broad concept of protecting history, that doesn't tend to happen very often. I can't really think of many episodes of Doctor Who where it's a case of our job is to make sure that history happens. Can you think of any? I'm trying to.
Off the top of my head, I can't.
So, which is always automatically going to give it a very different feel. And it's not very often that you're going to have, we must protect this moment in history of it being a unsignificant moment. Because obviously it's going to have to be a significant moment. It's not going to be the moment of, this is the moment that the Wright brothers do their first flight to Kitty Hawk. We need to make sure that happens. Because that's not going to get a strong reaction from the audience. But this is a key moment. This is the start of the civil rights movement in America, which is culturally and historically, certainly in the modern age, one of the most powerful countries in the world. Whether you and I like the fact or not, that it's as a culture that is far-reaching, and what happens in America tends to have a sort of a knock-on effect for the rest of the world. I will say from a story perspective, if we're looking at it from a Doctor Who point of view, rather than looking at the social message for it, it's a bit weak, because we don't actually learn that much about Krasko. We know very little about him.
Yeah, I'm hoping I call him the anti-Jack Harkness.
Yeah, because I was saying that...
He has a vortex manipulator, and they're like, he's like Jack if he wasn't likeable.
I was saying that...
Although I wouldn't say he was unlikable, he didn't really do anything.
We learned very... aside from the fact that he is racist...
See, I thought they were going to put a twist on that. He's actually an alien and just hates humans.
I thought it was going to be something like that.
That you think, he's...
But we never learnt...
And they were...
Aside from the fact that he is, we never learned exactly why. We learnt he's a criminal whose actions led to him being incarcerated in Storm Cage, which is the same prison that River Song was incarcerated in. His actions that led him to be incarcerated there resulted in the deaths of at least a couple thousand people. We don't learn exactly what that is, or why he did it, other than he's generally quite unrepentant about it, which are automatically things that are going to make him villainous. Is the person, yes, my actions resulted in the deaths of thousands of people, but I don't really care. Alright, automatically he's a guy with a moral compass that we're not going to like.
And we make a great politician. With that kind of attitude.
What I found slightly odd, based on the Doctor Who concept from, is he is someone from far in the future, 79th century, I think, is what...
70s, well, that's where at least where the tech comes from.
Which would suggest that's probably from the... And even then, even to do with Storm Cage, that would suggest we're going really far in the future. Now, Jack Harkness is from the 51st century. And we've had it established, but by the 51st century, we're at the time when the human race has expanded beyond the stars, and it's going off and dancing with all these other races, all these other different alien species and things. And when we visited the future in previous episodes of Doctor Who, if there's been a form of prejudice, it's usually been humans and non-humans. This is the first time when we've reached a point where we're going very far in the future, and the prejudice that we're getting isn't humans and non-humans, it's based still on racial hatred of humans, based purely on the skin colour of the same species.
Damn you, Star Trek, your optimistic future was a lie. Damn you, Patrick Stewart.
It's the first time we've encountered that, really, with Doctor Who, which, I mean, admittedly, we don't get a firm history in terms of this is what the human race and human civilization and culture and all these things are like far into the future.
The human race even be recognisable in the 51st
That's
century?
the thing, well, even then...
It's like you are aware that there's like two things humans do when they encounter aliens. They're either going to kill it or they're going to fuck it. That is literally what humanity is going to do when they encounter aliens. Or if they encounter aliens.
No, I think the third option will be enslave it as well.
Well, yeah, but, if you're going to kill it, they're going to fuck it. And, in hell, in how many thousands of years the human race,
Doing that to itself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long
time.
Doing that. God damn you humans, why do you suck so much?
We didn't
Insert Professor Farnsworth clip here.
We learned very little about him as a character, and we don't even learn really why he's doing it, aside from he's got this visceral hatred.
Damn him.
Which is abominable, his views anyway.
Yeah, but it's also kind of cartoonish. It just comes off, yo, well, he's racist. They went, good.
It actually reminded me of An Alternate History. It's a book by Harry Turtledove. It's one of the ones he's best known for, which is The Guns of the South. It's a group of pro-apartheid South Africans travel back in time to the American Civil War, and they give the Confederate States of America a bunch of AK-47s because they want. No, they're not. They give them better weapons to fight in the American Civil War, so that the South can win, because they're in favour of the continuation of sort of like slavery and all those things. As the book continues, slavery ends up being abolished in the South. The South achieves its independence, but it very quickly then gets rid of slavery. So it's kind of the idea of this person set out to do this thing, and then it doesn't go the way they planned. And I thought it was going to be that sort of angle for it, which is always intriguing. But we learned so little about Krasko, aside from the fact that you develop a hatred of his views, or hatred of him based purely on his views. He's not much of a character. There's not much to play with him, almost. He actually had very little screen time as well.
Yes,
he's barely in it.
To be fair, neither did Rosa Parks have that much, actually.
Not a huge amount. I think she got more screen. She's going to.
Yeah. And now I'm sitting there going, so what did happen other than Bradley Walsh making complete arse himself? It's Bradley Walsh. Yeah, you're very nice.
I did like the scene where Ryan was at Rosa Parks' house and him getting sort of celebrity shock.
I so wanted to throw coffee over Martin Luther King. Yeah, just accidentally trip just all over him. Oh no!
But I love how he referred to Martin Luther King as, "Thank you, Martin Luther King. Yes, Rosa Parks."
Yes. It's a bit weird. And,
but I quite liked that celebrity shock of major historical figures. Oh, as a Doctor Who episode though, it felt very different.
Pretty weak.
Because there was less of a story.
It was here's 40 minutes of educating you about the American Civil Rights Movement. I went, if I want that, I'll go online. It's just like, I'm here for aliens shooting things, not for a fucking history lesson. But that's just me. Definitely could use a Dalek or two. You want racial prejudice against everything that's not there.
I mean, that's what Daleks are literally are. They're the embodiment of Nazis.
Even before they were. Oh, that was more Dan Ross than before. But yeah, this is going to be skirting around everything here.
One thing I found interesting is Ryan as a character, because once again,
why did they send him out to warn people at the bus stops?
I think they needed someone. Well, it becomes the.
Yeah, why not Bradley Walsh? Because no offense, he's white. They might listen to him more.
I think it's part of.
It's just like he's going to get punched again, if not lynched.
Yeah, that was always going to be. I mean, that was the thing that we would be concerned with. But I think at the same time, if you don't think of it in the context,
don't think about it.
It doesn't occur to them.
What, the Doctor would know, sure? I mean, you've seen it decked in the face once and all the other stuff.
It is odd that the Doctor wouldn't have done
that. It's like send Bradley Walsh, who I will always refer to as Bradley Walsh,
Graham.
That's his name. Graham. Because, no offence, he's white, he's less like, one, they're more likely to listen to him.
He's also older.
And two, he's less likely to get punched, yeah. Yeah, but fuck it, Doctor isn't.
I admit, I'm not saying...
It just said, no, because or when I let him out, go out by himself, I went, that's going to end well.
No, the thing I was going to say about Ryan's character is he effectively killed Krasko.
Didn't pay attention in school. Yes.
Which, as we've seen, this Doctor, 13th Doctor, is someone who favours non-violent confrontation. When you look at the first episode with Sim Shaw, when Carl knocked him off the crane, the Doctor reprimanded Carl for that, said you had no right to do that.
But he wasn't racist.
No, but even...
He may have tried to kill people, but he didn't cross a line.
But at the same time, what we've seen is an equivalent action of that. We're seeing that Ryan is willing to... Because even last week, with the whole Call of Duty thing, with a gun.
Yeah.
When it went badly wrong. The Doctor still sort of gave him a rap on the knuckles for that.
Mm.
And it's a case of this is... What was it the Doctor said in the first episode? Setting fair play across the universe. Something along those lines.
Something like that.
Which is very much a summary, I think, of Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, is the idea of, which is very different from previous versions of the Doctor. Because we've seen that the Doctor's not been afraid of doing very dark manipulation of people. If you look at Tennant, Smith, Capaldi, McCoy, any of them, they've always been... I mean, McCoy did it quite a lot. I think still he was probably one of the darkest Doctors in terms of his manipulation of people.
Yeah.
This is a very different version of a take on the Doctor. We've got someone who prefers non-violent confrontation.
Mm.
And we've got Ryan, who, as a character, as we're learning, or as we're seeing with him, and admittedly, the circumstances that he's in for this episode, you can understand. Because he even said about, thank goodness that my nan taught me to try and keep my temper down. The circumstances that he's been placed in there, would be I mean, we're talking about this in the perspective of we are two young-ish white guys. So we have no concept of exactly, of even in the contemporary world, the kind of prejudice that they're going to be dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
I can only imagine the amount of anger that you would have at being treated like that by your fellow people. Just ordinary people, just treating you based on that, just referring to you in that way, just based on the colour of your skin. I can't even imagine what it would be like. But it's interesting that we're getting that development of his character. And I think we are starting to see interesting parts of all the characters as well, because Yaz is very much...
Who's now Mexican.
Yes, that as well.
That's funny. Yeah.
But she is the optimist, it seems to be.
Mm.
And also seems to be someone who thinks more on the same lines as the Doctor in terms of will be assertive, but not aggressive.
And pay more attention in school.
It's interesting seeing that Graham's also becoming more reflective. He keeps thinking back on things. And I think he's gradually becoming more confident as a person as well. But I'm interested in seeing each of the companions' journeys as they go forward. So, yes. So, as a Doctor Who episode,
yes,
perhaps not the strongest. Powerful message.
If it had beaten him,
possibly, but still just as relevant today, I think. Should we talk about the very brief trailer we got for next week's?
You can if you want. I was busy on the toilet.
All right, well, we didn't see much of it apart from something's happening to spiders.
I just heard my mum go,
yeah,
spiders!
That's pretty much what the trailer was.
But I know that from the title.
We didn't see any of the giant spiders.
Oh.
Because what was it? It's called Arachnids in the UK, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that, I believe. If there's not at least one snakes on the plane moment, I'm going to be in that.
Yep. Arachnids in the UK. Oh, we've got the names of the next two episodes after that as well. And the first one not written in any part by Chris Chibnall.
Chibnall.
Which is episode 6. So he's written the first 5.
Yes, how many more? I think he wrote the finale as well.
Yeah, which means he's got at least 7 of these episodes are written and or co-written by Chris Chibnall. Good God. So, episode 4 next week's is Arachnids in the UK. Then we have the Tsuranga Conundrum.
Sounds like a game show.
Written by Chris Chibnall. And the one after that is Demons of the Punjab. By Vinay Patel.
That'd be another historical one.
Possibly.
You know, like Rosa was for the Punjab. Might not be.
We know there's one episode coming up later on, which is The Witchfinders, being written by Joy Wilkinson, which is the one that Alan Cummings appearing in, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah,
is he James the First? He's James the First. Or James the Sixth of Scotland, if we want to get particularly...
Yeah, but we're not in Scotland.
You're not in Scotland, Sean. I am.
Yeah, well, you used to call him James the First as the SNP comes.
Yes, I know that, but I'm saying that currently, whilst recording
Trust
this,
your
in
house.
the same room as my girlfriend, who is a very strong Scottish
okay.
patriot. And I can feel daggers in the back of my neck as I say this.
I should make
I'm recording, dear.
I'm keeping my mouth shut from now on. I'm keeping
Good,
my
I'm
mouth
glad
shut.
you were in headphones. She can't hear you.
Are you wearing headphones? Are you
Yes,
wearing
I'm wearing
headphones?
headphones.
Good! Woo! I can say what I
Doesn't
like.
mean that you won't listen to this later.
Those offensive
No,
things.
don't you dare.
No.
Anyway, I think we've reached the natural end point, because I don't think we're going to say much more about Rosa, the episode.
Well, what can you say? Really, what can you say?
I mean, I agree with my mum's point of it's probably the most powerful Doctor Who thing, because it's the one with the most sort of, as we were saying, the strongest social message, because as you say, it comes across more as an episode of, we're going to look at a key point in history, in American history, which has a significant effect on the rest of the world. It's one of those defining moments. So it is going to evoke powerful reactions for it. And it's well done in that regard. I think if you look at it from that perspective, it's quite powerful. I think as a Doctor Who episode, as a drama from what we imagine from what we expect from Doctor Who, it's very different. Because we can't think of any other one where they've had one where it's a case we need to guard history to that same way. I'm still racking my brains trying to think of anyone like that. I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Can't think off the top of my head. I haven't got an encyclopedia.
No, I'm thinking, even just New Who. We've had none from...
It doesn't do too much history.
No, usually it's a case of something's happened
level.
and the
Occasionally you might see someone from history, but most of the time it's either future, alien world, or contemporary London, because it's way cheaper to film.
most of the time, even then, it's a case of something weird is going on. The Doctor goes somewhere and something weird happens, and we're discovering what the weird thing is that shouldn't have happened. Yeah. Which is just... And often it's a case of... I think it's Aliens in London, the one with Chris Jackson, where the spaceship comes out and says, "Did you know this was going to happen?" No, I had no idea this was going to happen. But this is what I travel for, to see moments occur.
Yeah, that's in the Slidine version.
That's the one.
Stupid.
But it was the pig, actually. It was the...
Oh, it's the one with the Slidine were introduced.
Yeah, that's the one.
With all their flatch words, because...
toilet humour.
Literally, toilet humour belongs in the toilet.
I quite like... I mean, as a concept, I like the idea...
The idea is cool, but once the Thatcher and joke...
Oh, yeah, once that joke thing's passed, but the characters themselves of this Slovene...
The idea is interesting, though, you know. But it's just... It tries to be funny. Yeah. And there's nothing more cringeworthy than someone trying to be funny and failing.
But anyway, I think we've reached our end point there.
We have.
It was a short one. I had a feeling it might... I thought this would either be very short or very long. And I'm glad we've gone for short rather than long.
Keep it down. Let's not try and
let's try to avoid that.
I'll save that for next week with the spiders.
Four spiders will be a good one.
I want giant, like, proper Sheila fucking
We have no idea what to expect from them either, because they didn't...
If they're going to fucking trick you with something else, I'm going to be really annoyed.
I can only hope so, because there was a man
giant
screaming at
Lord
something that
Rings.
appeared to be something quite large.
Eating people's brains out. Really creepy.
And it's Halloween week, so...
Yeah, giant spiders. And don't want cheap-looking giant spiders. I know TV budget, I don't have much money. But good-looking spiders.
Well, we'll see. So, join us next week for when we review Arachnids in the UK.
Someone get Sam Jackson on this as well.
Right. That'd be awesome. That would be awesome. I don't think it's going to happen.
No, it's not.